Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk Live. I'm your host, Brandon Bryce, the People's Champ. Real news, real people, straight to the point. As you can see, my background's a little different. That's because I apparently am in Facebook jail. But that's okay because we're going to tell the truth. And if Facebook wants something, then we can go toe to toe. But, folks, I got an awesome panel today. Tonight is the post presidential debate coverage. And joining me, we've got below me, we've got Mark Lee, host of Small Talk on the 910 AM Superstation. Directly to my right, your left, or my left and your right, we've got Robin Barnes, who is a business analyst extraordinaire and also a Republican consultant. And then directly diagonal from me, we've got Eric Brown, who's a columnist with the Michigan Alliance and also another conservative pundit. I want to start with Mark below me. Tonight was a very interesting panel discussion. What was the takeaway? I mean, it was actually civil. What was the takeaway tonight? Who won and who did not win?
Bottom line, I think it was first of all, let me give a shout out to Crystal Walker. I think she did a wonderful job moderating debate. It was actually a debate, and it gave people a chance to listen to both candidates without all the interruptions. So I want to give a special shout out to her. She got a lot of heat going in for the president, but then she held her own. Key takeaways. I really don't think nothing. I think nothing changes. I think that both bases are quite frankly happy. The majority of the people in this country have already made up their minds. They're trying to go for that sliver, independent voter, if you will, that 5% whose minds are not made up. I think the bottom line is very few minds have been changed. If you're voting for Biden, you're going to vote for Biden. If you're voting for Trump, you're going to vote for Trump. So I think that the bottom line is that nothing really changes. Both bases are quite frankly are happy. They both held their own.
Eric, let me come down to you. I mean, right now, there was a comment about the black issues. Both candidates kind of gave their focus. The president talked about the crime bill on Joe Biden's part. Joe Biden talked about African Americans not being safe by the police. What's your thoughts on that when the president talks about the fact that Joe Biden has been in office for 40 plus years and nothing was done, and he was in the presidency or the vice presidency seat for 8 years and nothing still got done? Is the president wrong for that, or is he right for that comment?
Well, first of all, I agree with Mark. I want to applaud Kristen Welker. She did a great job. I didn't see the vice president debate. I didn't see the one town hall last week, so I saw the first one and tonight. So she did a great job. As far as one of the things I do like about her, what she did when they talked about the black issue, she did a great job of holding Biden to the carpet on the 94 crime bill by stating some numbers, and so did the president. He stated some numbers, and I'm just not a big fan of anyone that has been in office for 47 years. You talk about systemic racism. Well, what did you do over the 47 years to curb systemic racism? And even with the crime bill, he said that, I made a mistake and we're trying to change things. Okay, why didn't you change things when you were vice president? So those are two major takeaways when they talk about the black issues. And it's also interesting to hear a white man talk about him telling his white daughter what to do when she get in the car. They don't experience the same thing, particularly white women. They don't experience the same things that black people, be it male or female, experience when we get pulled over by the cops. So I just felt that comment was disingenuous. He would have been better off talking about a black friend of his that got pulled over.
Brandon, you still there?
Yeah, I think he's frozen.
Well, Robin, what did you think?
I think that I thought it was a good show. And once again, I mean, everybody is giving the kudos to the moderator. She was fair, and I think she gave everybody a chance to answer the questions. Joe made several statements that were not true. I mean, it's just. It was too many to count. I mean, he just come out. But what I really thought was good was how the president came back. He kind of opened a door for himself. He kind of opened a can of worms when he started talking about Russia, because the whole, Hunter thing started coming out. And I'm like, dude, you just opened a can of worms. All that's been breaking all day. Don't open it, So yeah, it was a little bit different. So Yeah, I'm glad. I was proud of this one. I was proud of this one. I'm proud of all of them. Like I said, I like a little bit of fight, so I liked all of them. The town hall was the more boring one, the one that Eric was talking about. He didn't get to see. Yeah, you didn't miss nothing on that one, but this one was a good one.
Yeah, I thought, I think Krista did a wonderful job. But what I noticed is, Biden was trying to state specific facts. I get that, and Trump was still, he still speaks in generalities. And I'm not taking sides here. I'm just trying to give you my observations. And I'm drawing a blank, but there was one example where Biden gave 4 specific components of this plan, and then the question was turned back on to President Trump. What are you going to do about it? And he was still deflect. He has a tendency of deflecting certain things, and which is why I said in my opening comments, I still think that both sides, both bases, were happy with both, with both candidates. So Biden didn't do anything. He really had to blow it tonight to really have Trump make a movement in the polls, if you believe the poll numbers, which I really don't believe those. And then Trump had to really have a major breakthrough, and I don't think he had a major breakthrough moment this evening. So his numbers are not going to change. So I think at the bottom line, it was a good, thoughtful discussion between both candidates. Did it impact the outcome of the election? In my personal opinion, no. Eric, what do you think?
I agree with you. 12 days before the election, I don't think there's a single mind that has been changed. I think right now people have made up their mind. There's still this number out there, about 5% being undecided. I'm not sure where these 5% of the people are or who's calling them to find out that they're undecided. But I don't see anyone being undecided right now. Maybe if they were to say 5% of the electorate plan on not voting, I could buy that. But to say someone is undecided, I mean, that's just not the case. And one of the things that the other takeaway from the debate was, compared to the first one, which the bar wasn't set that high to change from the first one to today, because the first one was a major debacle. We talked about that on your show, Mark. So from the moderator to both of the candidates, they were more civil. Now, towards the end, it almost got off the rail.
Right.
It almost got off the rails towards the end.
Excuse me. Can I make my comment?
Right. It ended when it should have ended, because had there been another question, we would have seen the debacle part 2.
It got real close.
Yeah, it got
real close. And Robin, and you hear what Eric is saying, it was a civil debate. I mean, again, I thought it was the best one of the 3. But from your standpoint, how did you feel that Trump did compared to Biden? I mean, obviously, after you're a Republican strategist, were you satisfied with his performance versus Biden's performance? I mean, what were his strong points tonight, being President Trump?
I think for President Trump, his strong points was that he literally took the time and answered the questions. He didn't go off on a tangent. Sometimes, Prez liked to talk to the masses. That's his thing, Sometimes it's kind of hard for him to pull back, but tonight he did an excellent job of getting the answers out that need to get out. Also, I like the fact that he got a lot of the, I guess you can call them political digs. He got those in. He got in a lot of key points that were out there when he was talking about the fracking, because I don't think that was going to come up, and he kind of brought it up about fracking, what you're going to do with fracking. He also brought up about some new stuff, the 3.5 million, with what's that's going on with Hunter and all that kind of stuff. He also brought in the fact that, hey, just like Eric said, what have you done in 47 years? You had all this time to do this and you did not do it. So why now? What's the big thing now that's going to make you do it? I was kind of surprised that he said he was trying to change. He's trying to change the 94 bill, and I'm saying I've never heard of that. I've never. Right. Have y'all heard of him ever trying to change that? I never.
No.
Yeah, that was news to me. That was
the first time, and that's one of the things that, and Mark know me, I've been a dogmatic opponent of him as it relates to the 94 crime bill, because it has harmed the Black community in such ways. And people want to say, well, that was 26 years ago. And Christian even said it's impacting people still today. Mm-hmm. And I think it was good to hear a Black person say that, because so many people want to dismiss the 94 crime bill talking about 26 years ago. No, it's still impacting people negatively. But I also feel that the digs about Russia, the digs about Ukraine, the $3.5 million, that's not going to move anyone. It's going to be a talking point going forward. But now, had that come out maybe 6 months ago when we were down during the pandemic, there was nothing else to talk about. That would have been a gold mine for number 45. This late in the game is just noise.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And I also think he opened up his. I think he opened up the Pandora's box though, and gave Biden a chance to crack the door open. And what Biden came back with, well, if you're so sure about yourself, why don't you release your taxes? You know, I mean,
Right.
he started talking about he's talking about his financial relationship with his son, and Brandon's back. Hey, Brandon. But anyway, he started talking about his son. But then, and I thought that Biden, quite frankly, Biden had the perfect response to that, which was, okay, you want to talk about money, you want to talk about being paid, you want to talk about your bank accounts. Why don't you release your taxes? And again, he goes back to saying, well, they're going to be released. I got this audit going on. He's been saying that for 4 years. And I think, excuse me, at this point late in the game, is that going to have an impact or anything? No, because the election is 12 days away. But I think Biden had a nice comeback when he did talk about, hey, President, release your taxes. Stop talking about it. Just release it. Let us see where your money is going. Right? And I think that was a really move by him.
There's a such thing as prepaying your taxes, but you still have to claim what you're prepaying your taxes on your potential earnings. And that's one of the things that now had Biden come back and said that would have carried a lot of weight. That's one of the things that was trending on social media. I never heard of prepaying taxes. That is a thing you can do, but you still have to claim your expected earnings.
Let me ask you guys this, and I apologize. Apparently my server went out. I guess there's maybe Russia.
Are you back in Facebook trouble again?
I don't know, man. I think Russia might be tapping my phone lines up here, but let me ask you guys this, because this is a very interesting comment throughout the evening when they talked about race relations, specifically. Joe Biden talked about being pulled over and what black families have to talk about with their children, and then the president obviously talked about the prison reform bill. Let me ask you guys this, and I'll just kind of go around the panel. When it comes to African American issues, coming off of the Ice Cube situation that we just had last week, where do you see, if Joe Biden or the president wins November 3rd, what's the next step for African Americans? Mark, I'll start with you, and then we'll go around.
You broke up. What was the last one? You said, what is this about African Americans?
What's the next step for African Americans?
Oh, man, we got to hold these politicians accountable. I mean, part of the issue that I have, Eric and I talked about this recently, is I'm tired of people coming in and basically coming in a month before the election saying what they're going to do for African Americans. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm tired of that nonsense. I think what needs to happen is that African Americans need to hold these politicians accountable. If they're not happy, you need to have another strategy. But don't let these guys skate away without addressing the issues. Have something in writing, have some type of contract. I respect what Ice Cube tried to do, and trying to get things in writing, but we've got to get in front of these guys' faces. We got to hold them accountable. Don't let them escape, and don't let them wait for another 4 years to say, oh, by the way, this is what I'm going to do for the African American community. So the next step is get it down, get on their calendars, get in the office, talk to the representatives, and make something happen now. Don't wait. We've got to start November 4th, the day after the election, to start affecting change.
Robin, I'll go with you. What's the next step for African Americans, depending on who becomes the next president November 3rd?
Well, I think Biden made it pretty clear. He doesn't have a plan, and he's not thinking about putting the plan together for the African American community until he make it in, if he makes it in. That was kind of disheartening, because I felt like that if Ice Cube and 50 Cent, all these people, if they're coming to you with a plan, that needs to be seen. And so one of the great things about what President Trump is doing and has in place already is he already has a crew together, or a round table of people who are going to work with the Platinum Plan. The Platinum Plan was initially started back about 3 years ago with the Jerron. But what happened was we ended up talking to Ice Cube. Ice Cube brought in what he had, and we said, hey, we see some components in that we want to use. That is that possibility. And that's what we're doing. We're implementing that. We already started a program where we're going into communities. We're going to start doing educating, not only just regular education, but also skills. We're going to start teaching skills. We're going to put money into getting people to be able to take opportunity, part of the opportunity plan.
Mhm.
So we also got $500 billion that we're putting into getting people loans so that they can buy their homes and also buy other properties, so we can bridge that wealth gap in between the African American community and our other counterparts. I mean, we already have these things in place. We just have to get, of course, it has to go through everything else, all the logistics of being in Congress. We already have it in place and ready to go.
Eric, let me ask you this. I mean, during the conversation, you clearly saw the difference between a businessman and a politician. Which one is better for Black Americans?
Well, that's an interesting question. It depends on what each is bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
For one, if you're not holding these politicians accountable, that's part of the problem, as Mark stated. The only problem with a businessman is once you run for office, I don't care if you're running for your local trustee, you become a politician.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you run for office, you run for school board. But I'm going to take it in a different direction to the initial
Mm-hmm.
question that you asked. The first thing that Black people need to do is kiss and make up. Because the vitriolic
Mm-hmm.
issues that have been taking place over the last 6 months has been terrible. I say to people all the time, particularly those that did not vote 4 years ago, you're part of the problem. You hate this man so much. Why didn't you have that same angst about him 4 years
Mm-hmm.
ago to get him in office? I don't want to hear the excuse that you don't want to vote for a woman. Well, you get what you pay for then, or you get what you don't pay for, because voting has consequences as well as not voting has consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Because the voting that has consequences is if you don't hold them accountable, then shame on you. So what needs to happen is, be it a businessman, be it a career politician, you have to hold them accountable. The research is out there for you to get almost any information. I don't care if you have Nexus, Lexus, Google, YouTube, all the information is out there for you to research these candidates. But again, you can't have selective outrage, or you just cannot accept to go along with what someone is telling you. I can tell you anything about a candidate. I'm going to give you facts, but I'm also going to tell you to go look it up. I mean, in the human resource professions, particularly deal with the unions, I would tell somebody in a minute, I'm not going to regurgitate you a policy and procedure, a collective bargaining agreement. I'm going to get information, go look it up yourself. And if you have a difference of opinion, what I'm telling you, then we can have a conversation. But it's in black and white for you to interpret it, digest it, and come to your own conclusion. But at the end of the day, if Black people don't get themselves together and they continue to let white politicians rule their lives and ruin lives, ruin friendships, shame on us. We have to get our own. I mean, there's so many things going on in the Black community that needs to be addressed than people worrying about Ice Cube, 50 Cent. I think Kanye's still in the equation, and things of that nature. We have to address so many things at home. And Robin talked about the issues of what the Republican Party has going forward. These are things that have to be talked about all day, every day. We also have to get away, the Black community particularly, quit allowing these politicians to come into our churches, come into our neighborhoods only during election season. Ayanna Pressley said it best, the congresswoman from Massachusetts. She held her party to the carpet. Does Black lives only matter during election season? And that's a very legitimate question.
So let me ask you guys this. I mean, tonight we heard all from the economy to healthcare to even issues of China and Russia. I'm gonna come back to you, Mark. If the president is reelected, are we more safe or less safe?
That's a great question. Personally speaking, I think he touts the fact that he's built a military, and he's investing more money behind the military. But I think where the national security issues are affecting this country is the fact that some of these relationships that he's built. You know, with the guy over in South Korea, the alleged $400 million or whatever he's got over in China. So that does raise a security issue, because you shouldn't be doing business like that to the president of the United States, because you are, at the end of the day, you're representing the interests of the American people. So I would guess from a militaristic standpoint, he would argue that we're safer because we built up military. But I could argue that in terms of national security, in terms of how we're spending money, he's entrusted to spend this country's money. And if you're not being open and frank with the American people, we become less safe because we don't know how the money, in fact, is being spent.
Robin, let me ask you this. I mean, you have two white males, both over the age of 70, both with very contrasting views. Is it time for a third party candidate in this country?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that the American people are really going to accept a third party. I mean, the independent party has been there. Nobody jumps on their bandwagon. I mean, they could never. I mean, Bernie was an independent. He had to flip over and be Democrat to run. I mean, I'm not so sure is that the answer. I think what the American people wanted after. I think what we have is an issue of what the American people wanted and what politicians that were career politicians thought that we wanted. There seemed to be a disconnect in the communication. I don't know where it happened, but it did. I think in 2016, career politicians like Hillary and Pelosi and those, they felt that they could just push this one agenda, the same old thing, the same political rhetoric, the same, okay, we're going to get to buy, we're working for you, America, and the same old thing. And people was okay with that. They were so out of touch. But what people were really going through after the housing crisis, they were so out of touch that people felt what was going on with GM after Obama had bailed GM out and how people had lost a lot of their 401ks and a lot of their retirement and a lot of their healthcare, parts of their healthcare plan that was pertinent. They were so out of touch, and they were at the same time so grandiose to say, hey, I'm just going to come into, and I can only say speak for Detroit, I'm going to come into Detroit when I get ready. I hit these other areas, and I come and say hi real quick to you, and I'll talk about the water crisis, and then I'm going to leave. They were out of touch with the people. The thing that makes President Trump, and I hope that we really get to see this part of him more, but I know as a president, we get to see that, but President Trump understands what the people want. He is that person that says, as business people, we listen to our customers. If our customers say, hey, your store dirty, you got to get this store cleaner, we ain't gonna come back up in. The wise business person is gonna say, hey, I hear that. Let me instead of having somebody come clean the store once a day, we're gonna have them come twice a day. In the morning, make sure it's clean, and at night when we leave, so that when the people come in the next day, it's clean. We are people that get the job done. We're not trying to say it in the natural political rhetoric. We're not trying to not hurt your feelings. We're trying to get the job done. We're people who do the job. And I think that is the climate that people want. They are tired of being lied to. We have been lied to for 6 decades that I know of.
So Eric, let me ask you this. I mean, when you talk about folks being lied to, the president today said that he's done more for Black Americans than even Abraham Lincoln. Is he telling the truth, or is he going a little far-fetched with that statement? Your thoughts on that, Eric?
Well, if you're familiar with Walt Disney, they say if you dream it, you could believe it. That's part of the motto of the happy place in Florida, so no, come on, that's just rhetoric. There's no way that he can say after 4 years of being president, he has done more for Blacks than anyone. That's just a misstatement on his part, but people buy into it, just like people think the unemployment rate is this grandiose figure, and a lot of people are back at work. We know that's not true. Particularly those of us in the human resource field, those like Mark in the business field, that is not a true number. I just want to address one quick point, though, as it relates to the an independent party or a third party. Yes, it is time for it. Unfortunately, I think people are too cowardly to go down that road, because you can't keep talking about how upset you are about the two-party system, but you continuously go and vote for one or the other. And people have to feel and get to the point that it can be either or, but it can also be neither or neither as well, which would make sense for people to review, research, and even vet. Because you look at the current Libertarian Party candidate, Jo Jorgensen, she has a very good platform. Not too many people have paid attention to it because it was easy for them to get engaged in the incumbent and the 100 Democratic candidates that were on the stage at one time, you know, in the March, February, April, and May time period. And one of the things I saw tonight, though, I'm sorry, you know, my personal belief, neither one of these guys are presidential. I did not see that. Joe Biden still was vice president. And what I saw tonight is just like, it's sad, you know, and I've never been a Trump fan, so I guess I'm being biased just based on not being a fan of his, going back to years of the 80s, the Central Park Five, the reality show that he has. He was just never someone that impressed me enough to even consider to be a politician that I would ever vote for. Biden, I have my issues with him for many reasons, but still, we have some work to do as American citizens that, as Mark stated, has to begin on November the 4th. We can't wait till 4 years from now. We can't forget about the midterms. It has to begin on November the 4th, 2020.
So that brings me into my final segment, and Mark, I'll let you take this one. You know, this is interesting because, as I said before, we have a businessman and we have a politician. What's your thoughts as a businessman yourself? Is it going to take a businessman to get African Americans in the Black community, in some cases, places like Detroit, New Orleans, Baltimore, is it going to take a businessman to uplift those folks out of poverty?
No, not necessarily. It's going to take somebody. I'm a business person, you know, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows what I do in this town. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to take somebody who listens to the people. It's going to take somebody who gets into the community. They can live, breathe, touch, and feel those individuals. Okay, that's the bottom line. And I think that, again, Eric makes a good point. Robin makes a good point. We're all making good points. I'm tired of people. I'm tired of people coming in here a month before the election, 2 months before the election. They go to the Black church. All of a sudden, you haven't seen them for 3.5 years. You know what? Start on November, whenever the inauguration day is, January 20th. Get into the community. You can be a politician. You can be a business person. You can be a blended of both. Okay. The bottom line is the challenge is you need to get out there. You need to listen to what these people are, what the challenges are. Go back and have listening sessions. And then you go back and develop a solutions-based strategy. Stop focusing on the problems. And I think what people are asking for within the African American community, what is the Black agenda? If someone can identify the Black agenda based on the challenges, based on the issues, and then come back with solutions, then we will finally make progress. Unfortunately, we're not there. Unfortunately, what we've got politicians and business people who are still focused on the issues, but they don't have solutions. And the bottom line is we got to get out there. They have to get out there and listen to the community and understand what the challenges are.
And folks, that concludes us for this evening. Tonight is Straight Talk. I apologize. The Russians didn't get me. I'm not sure what happened, but it wasn't Putin. But folks, tune in. This is the post-presidential debates coverage. I want to thank my guests tonight, Robin Barnes, Mark S. Lee, and the Eric Brown. Folks, tune in next week. We've got 12 days to vote. Please express your vote. I don't care who you vote for. Actually, I do, but I really don't care who you vote for. But make sure that you vote. And folks, I want to thank my guests. As I always say, good night and Godspeed.
See you. Thanks.
See you.